Thank you for your love, your constant support, and every generous donation that helps this mission grow. Your presence here means more than words can express. With gratitude and light, there are times when life seems stuck, as if nothing is moving. You pray, you wait, but you don't see any change. Perhaps the problem is not a locked door, but the fact that you still don't see that it is already open. This message is for you who feels the calling, but doesn't know how to take the next step. God is not silent. Sometimes, He is just waiting for you to look with eyes of faith, not with eyes of fear. There is a passage, a path, a door, but it only appears when you decide to trust. Heaven has already placed something before you. Now it's your turn to cross, even without understanding everything. I believe you are not hearing this by chance. If this message has reached you, it's because God wants to remind you of who you are. You are not just anyone, you are chosen. And those who are chosen have direction. Confusion, doubt, and fatigue are not signs of the end. They are the harbingers of a new beginning. Before we continue, do the following. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. My name is George, and every week I share messages here that help you reconnect with God and with your purpose. It's simple, quick, and you won't miss any word that could change everything. Get ready. Today, God is going to swing open a door before you. The question is, will you cross it? Not every door is locked. Some need to be crossed with faith. Not every difficulty you face is a sign that the door is closed. There are things in life that only seem like obstacles, but are actually tests of faith. God has already placed the path before you. The question is not whether He opened the door, but whether you have the courage to cross it even with fear. God does not only work with physical, visible doors. He is a master at opening spiritual doors, those that can only be seen with faith. Sometimes the exit is right there, but covered by insecurity, confusion, or anxiety. And then we stop, we freeze, as if we are waiting for permission to move forward, when heaven has already said, "Go." Faith is what reveals the way. Without it, everything seems stuck, but with it, even the invisible becomes direction. Remember Revelation 3:8. Behold, I have set before you an open door, and no one can shut it. This means that it doesn't matter what others say, who criticizes, or how incapable you feel. If God has opened it, it is your duty to cross. Some doors do not have signs, spotlights, or guarantees. They come in the form of a silent invitation. They come like that feeling of, "Go, it's this way." Most people wait for too much confirmation, too many signs, while God is just waiting for one attitude: faith. And faith is not about understanding everything. It's about trusting even when it seems confusing. You might be waiting for something big and visible when God is giving you a simple internal push. It's that discomfort that won't go away, that peace that comes when you think about taking a new step. Don't disregard this. These are ways God is saying, the door is here, just cross. But only those who believe will cross. Maybe you've been standing there for too long, looking at the same wall, when the door is just 2 steps away from where you are now. But it requires something: movement. Nothing changes until you change. No door opens completely until you show that you are willing to trust the invisible. There are people who do not cross because they want certainties. But the journey with God is not made of visual guarantees, but of internal convictions. The door He opens is accompanied by peace, purpose, and a calling that does not let you rest until you respond. And when you respond, everything begins to align. Many times, the greatest sign that the door is open is the discomfort where you are. When something starts to tighten within your soul, it may be God saying, "This place is no longer for you." It's time to cross, but not in haste, with faith, because crossing without faith is just walking on the outside, and God wants you to enter from the inside. And look, crossing the door does not mean that everything will be resolved all at once. Sometimes the other side is still challenging, but it is there that the answers are, the next steps, the miracles. Staying still out of fear of making mistakes is missing out on living what God has already prepared. He has done his part. Now it's your turn. Maybe today is your moment. Maybe this message is being used by God to shake you up and remind you, you are chosen. And those who are chosen do not live trapped in comfort zones. They cross. Even with doubts, even with tremors, even without a map. They cross because they know God is on the other side. The enemy does not close doors. He closes your clarity. The truth is that the enemy does not have the power to close what God has opened. He knows this. So what does he do? He confuses your mind. He tries to prevent you from seeing the door. Instead of fighting against the door, he fights against your clarity. He blinds you with fear, distraction, and distorted thoughts. How many times have you felt trapped, but there were no visible chains? This invisible prison is mental. It's when you believe that you can't, that you are not capable, that you are alone. These are thoughts that seem true, but that only pull you away from God's direction. This is what the enemy does. He distorts your vision. He knows that if you see clearly, you will move. If you understand who you are in God, you will cross any desert. That's why he heavily invests in stealing your peace, your faith, your spiritual sensitivity. The battlefield is your mind, and that's where you need to win first. Faith is the antidote to this blindness. For we walk by faith, not by sight. 2 Corinthians 5:7. This means that even when you do not see, you keep going. Even when everything seems dark, you move forward because you trust in the one who called you. Faith does not depend on external sight, but on internal conviction. Have you noticed how sometimes everything around you is fine, but inside you it's chaos? It's because the real fight is inside. It's not a lack of opportunity. It's an excess of confusion. The enemy wants you to believe there is no way out, but God calls you to see beyond that. Do not accept any thought as truth. Question it. Rebuke what does not come from God. Do not accept living dominated by guilt, insecurity, or comparison. These are the filters that cloud your spiritual vision. The door may be right in front of you, but if your mind is cloudy, you won't notice. That's why so many chosen ones get stuck. It's not due to a lack of faith, but an excess of mental noise. God speaks, but the noise inside is louder. The enemy knows this, so he will use emotional fatigue, overwhelm, external voices, and even people close to you to confuse your focus, and you start to disbelieve in the calling. But today you need to take a stand. You need to decide to feed your faith, not your fear. You need to silence voices that do not build you up. When the mind aligns with the Word, the spiritual eyes are opened, and then you realize the door has always been there. It just lacked clarity. The devil wants you to doubt your identity. He will always question, did God really say that? Just like he did with Eve. But you have something that Eve did not have, the cross. You have access to the truth that sets you free. And this truth reminds you, you are a child, you are called, you are an heir. When you position yourself in faith, even without seeing everything, you win. Clarity returns, the mind calms down, and the direction appears. God does not need an ideal scenario to act. He just needs you to believe. Confusion does not come from him. Fear does not come from him. Paralysis does not come from him. He is light. He is the way. So today, choose to disconnect from the confusion and connect with the truth. Even if there is still noise, decide to move towards what you know, deep down, is from God. When faith takes the place of doubt, clarity returns, and the door reveals itself. You need to expel what is occupying the place of truth. Before crossing any spiritual door, you need to clear the path from within. You can't carry heavy emotional baggage, and at the same time live the lightness of purpose. There are things that God has already shown you that need to go, but as long as you don't let go, the new cannot enter. The door requires space. Thoughts of failure, voices of comparison, guilt that you should have already left behind. All of this takes up too much space inside you. And where these voices speak loudly, the voice of God becomes quiet. That's why the first step is not to cross the door. It is to expel what is preventing the truth from taking root. Jesus taught us this simply. In the desert, he did not argue with the devil. He declared the word and commanded him to leave. Matthew 4:10. And that's what worked. The truth sets you free. And the lie only leaves when you speak with spiritual authority. You don't need to negotiate with doubt. You need to confront it. Most of the locks you feel today are connected to thoughts that did not come from God. Ideas that you are not enough, that it's too late, that you won't make it. These lies take root if you don't pull them out. And where there is a rotten root, faith does not grow. That's why you need to clean your inner space. There is too much comparison stealing your identity. You look at others, at their timing, at their results, and you start to doubt your own process. But God's purpose in your life has its own rhythm, and no one can take your place. But for that, you need to stop trying to live someone else's journey. Guilt is also a great thief of lightness. You remember old mistakes, bad choices, and you feel that you do not deserve to start over. But God does not expect perfection. He expects surrender. The past does not define who you are. It only reveals where you came from. What defines your destiny is the truth you choose to believe from here on. You do not need to be perfect to cross the door, but you need to be clean inside. And this cleansing happens when you exchange lies for truth. When you start declaring what God has already said about you. When you stop repeating what fear whispers and begin to affirm what the word guarantees. The crossing requires surrender. God will not force the entry of something new where there is still resistance. It is like trying to fill a cup that is already overflowing with old things. First, you empty it, then he fills it. So be honest with yourself. What inside you is still occupying the place of truth? Maybe you need to forgive. Maybe you need to let go of an old justification that you have been repeating for years. Maybe you need to stop hiding behind, "I'm not ready." No one crosses the door ready. Preparation comes from the other side. What God is asking for now is willingness. It is a light and obedient heart. Start today. Say a simple but sincere prayer. Ask God to show you everything that is still occupying the wrong space within you. And when he shows you, do not argue. Just let go. Expel. Declare the truth. Repeat what he says, not what fear screams. The door is close, but first, clear the path. The door is where your obedience is. Many people get stuck because they want to understand everything before moving. But the kingdom of God works differently. Revelation comes after obedience. God does not deliver the complete map. He provides steps. And those who do not take the first step will never reach the second. The door only appears when you decide to obey, even without seeing everything. Some people are waiting for a confirmation that never comes. But the truth is that God has already spoken. He has already touched your heart, sent signs, and placed convictions within you. But as long as you insist on controlling the outcome, you will remain stuck. Obeying is trusting that if God sent it, He has already prepared the next step. Abraham is a great example of this. Hebrews 11:8 says that he went out not knowing where he was going. This is faith in action. He didn't need to understand the destination because he trusted the author of the call. It was precisely in this movement of obedience that he found his door. Direction was revealed on the way, not before leaving. Obedience is not just doing what is easy. It is doing even when it does not make sense, even when you feel small, even when it seems that nothing has changed. Because obeying is telling God, I trust you more than my fears. And this kind of faith moves heavens, opens doors, and brings down walls. The key is not in the certainty of the outcome, but in trusting the process. You may be one step away from the breakthrough, but you will only find out if you walk. Do not wait to feel ready. Obedience does not depend on emotion, but on decision. God acts in motion, not in stagnation. When you move, the supernatural is activated. If God has already spoken, do not ask for more confirmation. Ask for courage. Because the door is where you begin to obey, and those who obey will cross. The desert is not the end of the road, it is the disguised entrance. When everything becomes dry, silent, and devoid of answers, the first reaction is to think that something has gone wrong. But the desert is not a sign of abandonment. It is a place of preparation. God uses silence to align the heart. It was the same with Jesus. Before manifesting power, he went through the desert, and there he was strengthened. The desert reveals what comfort hides. It shows where your true faith lies. Without distractions, without applause, without certainties. Just you and God. It feels like punishment, but it is care. God separates you from the noise so that you can hear only His voice. And in that listening, you receive direction, strength, and identity. Some doors only reveal themselves in the desert. They do not appear in times of celebration, but in times of total dependence. God expects you to learn to trust, even when nothing makes sense. Because when you learn to trust in silence, you are ready to obey in the noise. Spiritual maturity is born in the dry place. Matthew 4:1 says that Jesus was led by the Spirit into the desert. He did not fall there by mistake. He was led by purpose. And if it was like this with Jesus, why would it be different for you? The desert is a path, not punishment. It is a passage, not an end. God uses the desert to eliminate what you will not need in the next phase. There, where it seems there is nothing, God gives you everything: clarity, direction, healing, and identity. The enemy will try to confuse you, but God will remind you who you are. It was in the desert that Jesus heard, "You are my beloved Son," and it is there that you, too, will remember who you really are. God's silence is not absence. It is focus. It is preparation for the door that will come, and when it opens, you will not enter unprepared. You will enter strong, clean, and clear. So do not run from the desert. Stay, learn, trust. The door that leads you to purpose is there, disguised as loneliness. When you accept your identity, the door aligns. Nothing hinders a spiritual walk more than doubt about who you are. When you do not know your identity in God, everything becomes confusing. You start to question your worth, your voice, your call. And this is exactly where the enemy works, in your mind. He knows that if you doubt who you are, you will stop. It was the same with Jesus. Right after being baptized, he heard from heaven, "This is my beloved Son." But in the desert, the devil came with a subtle question. If you are the Son of God, do you see? The first thing the enemy wanted to shake was identity, because he knows that if he breaks this, he breaks everything else. But God has already answered you. Romans 8:17 states, And if we are children, then we are heirs. This changes everything. Children do not ask for permission out of fear. They enter with confidence because they know to whom they belong. And heirs do not beg for opportunities. They know they have the right to what the Father has prepared. Many chosen ones get lost trying to achieve something they already have. They try to prove their worth, their merit, their approval. But God did not call you to prove anything. He called you to live as a child. And when you position yourself this way, the door aligns. Because the door does not respond to effort, it responds to identity. As long as you live as someone who doubts themselves, you will feel stuck. But when you see yourself as God sees you, everything begins to clarify. Directions appear, courage arises, faith grows. Identity is like a spiritual key. When you take on who you are, the locks fall. It is not about thinking you are better than others. It is about knowing who you are in God. And when you know this, you stop living in fear of what others think. You stop comparing yourself. You understand that the door God opened is yours, and no one can close it. Many people live waiting for external recognition, but true authority is born in secret when you decide to believe what God says about you. Do not wait for someone to validate you to start. Your identity has already been validated at the cross. You are not an accident. You are part of an eternal plan with a name and purpose. The doubt about who you are does not disappear all at once, but with every step of faith, it weakens. With every declaration of the word, it loses strength. And each time you remember that you are a child, confidence returns. Identity in God is not built on the past, but on eternal truth. Stop now and think, who have you believed you are? Have you lived as a chosen one or as someone who merely survives? God did not call you to live in fear. He called you to enter with your head held high, with the confidence of someone who knows to whom they belong. The door responds to that. Today, accept your identity. Declare it out loud if necessary. Remember, you are a child, and if you are a child, you are an heir. Do not hesitate before the door. Go in with faith, courage, and gratitude. God chose you. And when you truly accept this, nothing can stop you. Many people seek an exit, a direction, a solution. But the true door is not a place or an opportunity. The true door is a person. Christ said in John 10:9, "I am the door." This changes everything. It is not about arriving at a location, but about drawing closer to Him. The crossing does not begin with external action. It starts with internal realignment, with a surrendered heart, with a soul quiet enough to hear the call of Jesus. He does not shout. He invites. And you only hear that invitation when you silence the noise of fear, anxiety, and the rush for quick answers. Christ is not an option among many. He is the way. That's why many doors seem not to work, because we try to open accesses that do not go through Him. We want shortcuts, but God calls us to surrender. The true door is not comfortable, but it is secure, because whoever enters through Christ finds life, direction, and peace. Perhaps you are trying to fix your life with temporary solutions, relationships, plans, escape, distractions. But the entry to the new season is only revealed when you choose to truly trust, even if the ground feels fragile, even if nothing is clear. Christ is firm, and whoever steps on Him will not fall. This door is open now. The call is made, and He does not ask that you understand everything, but that you come, that you surrender, that you trust. The step may seem small, but it changes everything. When you pass through Him, you enter a new season. A season where identity, purpose, and peace align. Today, do not chase after many doors. Run to Jesus. because He is the only one that truly leads to where your soul needs to be. Heaven has already placed the door. Now it's your turn to cross. There are moments when God will no longer repeat what He has already said. He will not shout. He simply waits for you to remember the last thing He showed you and obey. The door is already before you. It is not something distant. It is something spiritual, aligned with your purpose and prepared by Him. You do not need to wait for another sign, another word, another confirmation. When the truth has already been revealed, faith needs to take action. There are people who spend their lives waiting for something to change, when, in fact, what is lacking is a decision. God has already placed the door, but He will not force you to cross. This crossing is solely yours. No one can do it for you. Heaven calls, but it is you who responds. And the response that opens the door is not perfection. It is obedience. The call is not for those who think they are strong. It is for those who decide to trust, even when trembling. It is for those who prefer to obey rather than remain stuck. You may be afraid. You may be full of doubts. But if you know that it was God who opened the door, step in. Enter with a humble heart. Enter with your eyes fixed on Christ. Enter with the certainty that on the other side there is life, purpose, and healing. The chosen ones do not turn back. If this word truly spoke to you, leave in the comments what you felt while listening to or reading this message. You don't have to write beautifully. Write from the heart. Sometimes expressing what God has shown you is the first step to crossing the door. Share with someone who also needs this word. Perhaps it is exactly what will unlock their next step on the journey. The door is before you, and now it's your turn.